Hello, my name is Austin Whitaker, and I'll be answering the interview questions for the concept artist position. My first question is let's say someone tells you to design something without any or with very little context beyond the project prompt. What do I do? First thing I start doing is I start drawing up just potential ideas that, relate to the project prompt. I want to get out as many just of my personal ideas out of the way immediately and show it to the client and show them, listen, here's what I have. What can you give me based on this? I want to communicate with the client as much as possible and make sure that despite the fact that they've given me very little to work with, I can still gauge their interests and their likes and dislikes almost immediately because I want the outcome to be exactly what they want off the cuff immediately. I don't want to risk making anything that just completely falls outside of the box. I will communicate heavily. In fact, I usually tend to start on projects the first day I usually get them anyways. So I think it's a good day when things are fresh on the mind to sort of draw up sketches and ideas and just to get the concepts already going so the client can look at these and discern what they do and don't like. My next question asked me to explain my approach to meeting tight deadlines and to talk about a time when I completed great work under pressure. And this actually reminds me of several years ago where I had a commissioner who wanted me to create 6 different illustrations of a different character for each one with different backgrounds, fully shaded all the works, just fully rendered pieces for each one. And I remember thinking to myself in that moment, I'm going to be absolutely floored by this one, and it ended up turning out fine actually. I was impressed with myself. I I had to do I had to do each piece just one by one instead of trying to do everything all at once. If I had tried to do each piece like at the same time, like doing like the lines for one and then the other, and then just doing all the lines, doing all the colors, all like at the same time around the same time frame, I think I would have completely crashed and burned. I think I would have just had too many ideas in my head at once. So I took it one at a time, and I kept my client in the loop the entire time. I was like, okay, here I'm moving from this one to this one, and I wanted to show them each piece like as they were finished, as they were completed, and the process I went through like just to get there. And I just wanted to make sure that each composition was wholly unique for each one because they were asking for 6, so I wanted to make sure that they captured exactly what they wanted for each character properly. I tried to hone in on the personalities of each character very much so. It ended up being a very interesting challenge just to see how many I could get done. It took me I had a time frame of 2 weeks, and I got it done. I think just short of that. It was a very fun challenge, I find, and I think back fondly on it. This question asks who I admire the most and how they influence my work, and it was very difficult for me to narrow down exactly who inspires me because there's really just a very long list. So I just had to pull just a couple out of them. My first one that I would go with is Powerhouse Animation. They've just truly taken me into the world of animation again. I was shocked by the animation quality of Castlevania. Just looking at the environments that most of the characters interact in, and just the character designs in general, I just wondered to myself, what does the concept art look like for these compositions? What does it look like? Because just every environment that they walk into has something that just stands out, or at least just feels so lived in. The world is so rugged, so dirty, and just so it's awash with pain for a good reason based on how the plot goes. If you haven't watched it, I won't say anything. But it reminded me of just the goals for my work in the future, for my personal projects. Just reminded me of what I want to do in my future. And just the way they capture motion is unparalleled. Some of the action sequences absolutely floored me. I was in shock. My mouth was agape when I watched them for the first time. And I show that to anybody who asks me why I want to get into animation, because it's just such a good example of how impressive animation can be, no matter where it comes from. Another inspiration of mine would be Nintendo, which I think is just such an obvious one. But I used to go through just concept art of things from Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Kirby, just games like that. Metroid is a perfect example. the way they just create their worlds is fascinating. Just every world is so unique in some way, even if obviously it teeters on their own brands. Metroid is science fiction esque, Legend of Zelda is medieval, but just their designs are so specific to them that there's nobody who does what Nintendo does. Absolutely nobody. The way they design people is so fun. I remember playing the most recent Mario game, I think, Super Mario Odyssey. Just I was baffled by how they designed the characters in that world. Just the fact that you can go to a desert and see these like dead skull mariachi characters. I thought it was just a fun little idea. And in a desert, I was like, wow, how do you come up with something like that? And it's so colorful, so vibrant. It just completely jumps off the screen at you, like right into your face, saying, look at this thing. And I would love to see more of the concept art. I know there's a book I know there's an art book for that game, and I would love to find it. I know it's kind of expensive, but it's just completely in a different ballpark. Legend of Zelda, just another one. The worlds, all of them vary in some way. You you can't say one looks exactly like the other unless they have like a specific callback. But all of them, especially Wind Waker alone, my goodness, the concept sheets for the characters, for the enemy designs in that game, and for the water based environments is so. There's no game that looks like Wind Waker. There's none. There are games that might try, but nothing looks like that. And the last one being Blur Studios, who worked on the Destiny 2 animation and just multiple music videos, which is another one of my like personal goals, to work on music videos. They worked on an animation for a character who ends up passing away, which is not really news at this point. This happened 4 years ago. But the animation sequence is so like I I fail to describe it, because whenever I watch it, I just think about how well they understood how to animate this character, and how to animate the enemies that he fights. And the environment is so small, and they had so much done in it. There was so much good work done in that. The composition for that particular animation, it shocks me, because they put so many nuances into that, like just a small bubble in a huge world. And obviously not all the concepts don't belong to them, it belongs to Bungie. But to take those things, and they probably had a lot of concept art to get the kind of crazy animations they wanted to do in the first place, like such as him like jumping off a ledge and firing his gun, or like characters one character like swings a large weapon and smashes him like through a wall. They had to have, obviously they have storyboards, but they also had to have concept art to show the kind of lighting that they wanted, and the kind of environment they really wanted to build upon. And that was just another thing that made me go, I would love to maybe work here someday, along with Powerhouse, or maybe even Nintendo. But honestly, like Blur Studios has been animation like studio that I've kind of had my eyes set on for some years now, and I can never overstate just how amazing they are, along with just anybody else that comes into my mind as an influence. Those are my answers, and thank you for your time.